Australia, October 1st, 2018. A new show for kids is put on the air.
Bluey!
But I first heard about the show in 2022, around the time my niece turned 1 year old. I didn't think much of it at the time and didn't give myself the push to watch it. I thought it was just a standard preschool show like Peppa Pig. It certainly had a style to it that reminded me of it. However, on the internet, this show gets talked about quite a lot. People analyze the show, they look for hidden meanings or whatever. So if a bunch of adults really enjoy the show, I figured I may as well give this new show a watch and see what all the fuss is about. Instantly, I was hooked, and Bluey's been my new obsession for over a year now. It was like a superior version of Peppa Pig made in Australia instead of the UK. It's a humble show, set in the modern day to contend with real modern day issues instead of going too over the top unless need be. It's just a normal, everyday family portrayed as anthropomorphic dogs engaged in the world of imagination. The best way to really summarize this show is with the characters. Of course, you have the signature family, the Heeler family, a family of Australian cattle dogs, or blue heelers and red heelers. Who better to start with than the title character, Bluey? Naturally, she's a blue heeler like her father, and yep, Bluey's actually a female. But many people, myself included, thought Bluey was male before we actually invested ourselves into the show. There are two reasons for this. First being she looks more like her father, and the second is the name and color. Blue is typically associated with masculinity, but this show proves that's just a stereotype. The show even has a joke about how her gender is mistaken.
Oh yeah, 'cause he's blue.
I'm a girl!
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Anyway, Bluey started off as an energetic and imaginative 6-year-old who loves to make up games for her family and friends. Then in the middle of season 3, now she's an energetic and imaginative 7-year-old who loves to make up games for her family and friends. She's always got that vivid imagination on her. She's always making up new games to play, but like any other kid, she's got a lot to learn. There's a lot for her to understand about her family, the world around her, why certain rules are in place. Typically, it involves how she wants the game to be played.
But I'm a spy! Humph. Password is grumpy.
She was never trying to be mean, she just needed to learn to keep others in mind so that everyone can get along.
Do you want to be right, or do you want Bingo to keep playing?
Can't I have both?
No!
Bluey's little sister Bingo is a red heeler like their mother. She's also a lively little pup, but she's arguably cuter. I think she's the cutest of the whole family. In almost any episode she's in, she's always providing a funny moment.
Hey, do you mind?
To give this show a sense of realism, there's the dynamic between the sisters. It could be a sibling quarrel or a bonding experience for the two. They get up to some shenanigans or whatever else. It's just great watching them work together. Then there's the mum and dad. Yeah, you gotta say like mum, because this is an Australian show. Chili is the mum. If something's amiss, you can rely on Chili to set everything straight.
It's 7 o'clock! You're meant to be out of the bath, and you're not even meant to be in it!
Even when she's taking the rules seriously, she has her moments of being funny at the same time.
You can either take turns, or I'll bring the xylophone to work with me. I'll freeze my boss.
I think one of her best examples of this would be what fans dub the death stare. Yeah, this is one mother you don't want to mess with.
Back to work, peasant. I mean, carry on.
She does engage in fun activities with her daughters, but her husband, named Bandit, is a lot more fun. He's my favorite character. He does play a part in setting things straight when necessary, but his sense of fun balances things out. He's either keeping them happy with the game they want to play, or just trying to give them a lesson about life. Sometimes there are games that he just doesn't want to play, but he doesn't want to upset his kids, so he just deals with it, even if it comes with a lot of pain.
My name is... Ouch!
Oh, brave boy.
Anytime he uses an expletive, it's always food-related.
Cheese and crackers. Cheese and jam. Cheese and crackers. Beans on toast. Duck cake.
But his most common is, oh, biscuits.
Biscuits. Biscuits. Biscuits. Biscuits! Ooh, biscuits. Biscuits. Ooh, biscuits! Oh, biscuits.
Aside from the main healer family, there's also the cousins Muffin and Socks. Muffin's the older sister. Most of the comedic factor with her comes from showing way too much energy, and boy is that kid loud too. She can especially get loud when things don't go her way.
La-dee-dee.
It needs to be
Her baby sister Socks, at first, behaved a lot more like a real dog than any of the other characters did. She walked around on 4 legs and had the tendency to bite others.
Oh, yes. What a lovely puppy. Ouch. So gentle and mild. Ow!
She didn't start walking on 2 legs until the season 2 episode Christmas Swim. By that point, she could also form words, and in the Bluey bonus bit, Honk, it's also demonstrated that she could put sentences together.
You're nice, Honk.
Though she still retained some dog-like qualities. Then we have the parents. Stripe, the father, is Bandit's little brother. He's one of those go-with-the-flow type of characters who loves a challenge. In the season 3 episode Fairy Tale, it's revealed that Bandit used to tease Stripe a lot when they were kids, until Bandit got jinxed and Stripe took advantage of it.
He loves crumbs. Don't you, dishwasher? Ha!
And even as adults, there's the sense of rivalry between the two, but it's in a more friendly fashion.
Big brothers always beat little brothers. That's just the way it goes.
Trixie's the mother, and she's not quite as prominent as Stripe is. She loves her family, but she also likes having time to herself, sometimes playing hockey with Chili. Good for her. But I believe it may have culminated in some disagreements talked about in the episode Facey Talk. Stripe had Muffin on timeout, but she wasn't cooperating. And Trixie soon reveals that she decided for a while not to use timeouts anymore.
We don't do timeout anymore.
What? Since when?
I read a blog.
You didn't tell me.
Because you're never here.
But you can tell she still cares about her family, such as in the episode Muffin Code, where she tries to break Muffin's habit of sucking her thumb, but couldn't even break her own habit of eating junk food.
Tricks?
In some episodes, Bluey would be interacting with her friends. Her best friend is Chloe, a kind and gentle Dalmatian. But Bluey also has a next-door neighbor named Lucky, a golden Labrador who loves sports. But we see Lucky's dad a lot more often than we see Lucky. Lucky's dad, named Pat, often plays a comedic role, getting involved in whatever crazy antics the healers get themselves into.
But I don't know how to deliver a baby. I thought you grew up on a farm. We grew sorghum.
In contrast, there's a Chow Chow named Wendy, who's also a next-door neighbor. She's often disturbed by what the healers get up to, but you can tell she's used to it by this point.
Do you know I like to smack my bum as hard as I can? Ooh, ow, ooh, ow, ooh, ow, ow, ooh, ow, ooh, ow, ow.
Then there's her daughter Judo. From her first appearance in Butterflies, she had been displayed as bossy and impatient. Isn't any wonder why in that same episode Bluey says she doesn't have a lot of friends? But this trait seems to have died down in Season 3, and I guess that means development. Other friends include Honey, a shy and thoughtful beagle, Mackenzie, an adventurous border collie originally from New Zealand, Coco, an impatient pink poodle, Snickers, a sausage dog with an interest for science, Indy, an imaginative Afghan hound, Winton, an obedient English bulldog, and Rusty, a red kelpie from the bush. The official Bluey website states that Rusty rides a motorcycle, but I've never seen that happen. Speaking of the website, there was a time when Rusty's bio listed him as Bluey's cousin, but that changed to them just being friends. Considering the relationship, I'm not sure I'd really call them cousins. It's not like the show addresses that anywhere. Also, Rusty was originally meant to be the main character instead of Bluey, but that quickly changed. That's most of the major characters you'd expect to see in the show, though there's plenty more. Most of them are minor characters that only appear in one episode. There are, however, a good amount that not only appear more frequently, while still rare, but bring more value to the show. I'd like to talk about those characters and the impact they had, but right now, I want to talk about some of the major themes of the show and some running gags. Bluey has always been a funny show catering toward kids. It's often the simple things that make us laugh, no matter our age.
Is this Bob Myers?
Bingo!
It has an identity due to its Australian culture. One thing that stands out the most to me is the episode Christmas Swim. I wouldn't think much of the idea of swimming during the winter holiday, but apparently Australia has a very warm climate, so swimming would be a great winter activity while you're there. And in Asparagus, there's a scene where Pat sings an Australian folk song called Moreton Bay.
One Sunday morning as I went walking by Brisbane waters, I chanced to...
Even though this is an Australian show, there are some American tunes used, like Oh Susanna.
Are you okay? I'm fine. Just ignore this.
And Oh My Darling Clementine.
Oh, where are you, my true love? Won't you come to me?
But most of it is teaching kids words that Australians use compared to Americans. What we call sandals, Aussies call thongs.
Ooh, show Aunt Chili your thongs, Muffin.
Aunt Chili, I'm wearing thongs.
Oh, great.
Australians don't say fries, they say chips.
Is Bingo gonna eat that chip?
Hey, where's my chip?
Yet they use the same word when talking about what the British would call crisps.
Chips? Nah, I'm off the chips. Trying to eat healthy.
There's an episode called Dunny where we learn another word for toilet. Well, you've already heard the episode title. It's Dunny.
Can we play three on the bed? And the little one said, well, Dad's in the dunny? Yeah!
Bluey, can you say toilet instead of dunny, please?
But even with the Australian culture, there are still rare occasions where different words are used in the international version compared to Australia. Like in barbecue, they say pepper instead of capsicum.
I like capsicum salad. I like pepper salad. Green capsicum, green pepper.
That's because American kids wouldn't know what a capsicum is, so that's understandable. This is one of the few shows to utilize meta-humor in a very clever way. It's not much though, most of it is just a quick glance at the camera. Sometimes characters would hum the show's theme song. One of my favorites might be from the sleepover regarding some random statement Muffin made.
I am a llama eating a banana. Yum, 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 yum. Did she say she's a llama?
But in Flat Pack, Bandit makes a comment about the cartoon dog in the Flat Pack instructions.
I'm not taking advice from a cartoon dog.
Then at the end of Puppets, we see Bluey go to sleep, and her dream is apparently her being animated to awaken.
Wow, that was a weird dream.
We already know that Socks was the only character to consistently behave like a real dog for a while, but there are plenty of examples with the other characters. Their tails would wag when they're excited, and from Bandit's bio on the official website, he is an archaeologist, referring to how dogs like to dig up bones, and Chili stayed to work part-time in airport security, in reference to sniffer dogs. In the first 2 seasons, the kids would on small occasion use the please face, obviously based on how dogs beg.
Please! Bingo, double please face.
Oh, all right.
They don't use this often, but one of their finest uses is in Tickle Crabs where they do a serious please face.
Why do you never play with us?
What?
You're always at work.
I'm never at work.
It's like you don't even love us.
You are joking, right?
How can you not love your own children?
Other times, the kids would howl in times of distress.
Oh, oh, oh! Oh, oh!
The little critters must be hungry.
Feather Wand features a scene where Bluey eats from a bowl of cereal off the floor, Bingo laps up water from the ground and Bike, and in Yoga Ball she curls up when sad, the way a dog would. Chili then teaches Bingo to use her big girl bark.
Whoa! There it is.
In the pool, once they get out, Bandit shakes off the water while Bluey struggles with it. Muffin Cone is the one where Muffin has to wear a cone. Christmas Swim features a scene where Chili catches a tennis ball with her mouth. Takeaway might hold the record. Bingo retrieves a newspaper with her mouth. Bandit tells the girls to stay. They fight over the chair. They lap up water from the tap. And Bingo does a bushwee. Most kids shows have the types of jokes that only adults would understand. This is one of them.
Are you ready, Bob?
I guess Chili's what you'd call a showstopper right there. Oh, come on. It's bad enough Bandit has to eat on the floor, but does the sausage really need to be positioned like that? Oh my gosh, and speaking of which, that does not look like an arrow if you've got a dirty mind. Right at the beginning of whale watching, Bandit and Chili are very exhausted after a New Year's party, or so they say.
Are you sick?
No, just,
Sleepy.
yeah, sleepy.
We know what it really is. It's a New Year's hangover, or as you Aussies might put it, they're legless.
Put on some tunes, you kids will play.
And the ladies watch us get all sweaty.
Oh wow, Pat, you really had to talk about the men's work attracting the ladies?
Is that chili sauce?
It's sweet chili sauce. Care for a lick?
Unicorns is an even bigger grub than I thought. It sounds like Chili saying a different word at the beginning of this line, and it was a misconception for a while, but she's actually saying this thing is really stuck. This has nothing to do with regional differences, it was just a captioning error by ABC, or Australian Broadcasting Corporation. I don't get how they made the error in the first place. This is a preschool show. Of course they wouldn't use such word. Except in Australia, they don't consider it profane. Oh, how convenient. But still, I hope those responsible have been sacked. But don't think for a moment the Healers were 100% squeaky clean. The kids have heard their parents curse.
Then Big Belt called chocolate milk that word Dad said when the mower didn't start.
Oh dear.
He called them the word you said when the dishwasher broke.
Oh dear.
But who could blame them from time to time? Listen to this line from The Claw.
I am not Dad. I am Magic Claw. Magic Claw has no children. His days are free and easy.
You got that right, Bandit. If they're not making jokes, they're dealing with a heavy topic, which I'll talk about later. The show did have some censorships when it came to the Disney Plus release. Most of it is about toilet humor. Most notable changes include the scene in Markets where the pony takes a number 2, and the end of Taxi when Bingo has Millicent barf on Bandit. Then there's scenes in episodes like Daddy Put Down when Bingo asks how babies are made.
Dad,
Yeah?
how does the baby get in the lady's belly?
It's odd that they'd censor this because this is a common question for kids to ask, and it's not like Bandit gives an answer. Sometimes an entire episode is unaired in the States, like Dad Baby from Season 2 due to its subject matter. For some time, the Season 3 episode Family Meeting, the one where Bluey accuses Bandit of fluffing in her face, wasn't available on Disney Plus, but they eventually put it in. Oh sure, The Lion King 1.5 had a bunch of fart jokes, but they weren't okay with an entire Bluey episode centered on the premise. Another episode that hasn't been on Disney Plus for some time is Teasing from Season 1, but when the rest of Season 3B was put on the service, Teasing was finally put on there. Speaking of teasing, Ludo Studio had its own censorships for Bluey, even in Australia. Both Teasing and Flatpack, which was from Season 2, changed a specific phrase that was depicted as just children's gibberish, but the term is actually derogatory toward Indigenous Australians. After hearing the complaints, they changed the phrase.
More honey, please, Shooby-Doo-Wah.
My name's not Chibi Doo-Wah.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, ooh. Look.
There's also an episode called Chicken Rat, where originally Bandit sneezes after eating sauerkraut because he's allergic to sauerkraut.
Oh, maybe I'll just have some sauerkraut instead.
But you're allergic to sauerkraut. Yeah, it makes you sneeze.
I know, but it's so good.
And he knows he's allergic, so why would he eat it anyway? People expressed concern, and it was changed so that sauerkraut just makes a burp. But that's not all. In Season 3's Exercise, there was originally an opening scene where Bandit weighs himself and is disappointed. People accused it of fat shaming, and a few weeks later, the scene was cut. Out of all seasons, Season 3 has had it the worst with censorship. In the premiere, there's a scene where Bandit is talking about getting a vasectomy.
I'm keen to get it done, but Chili, she wants to keep her options open, but I don't know. Do we want any more of these things running around? Hey!
But the Disney Plus version changes the topic to reluctance about removing dog teeth?
Yeah, I know. I probably should get it done. But I love my dog teeth. I don't know. What if one day I just want to bite someone? Hey!
Explorers had a line about Argentinian and French backpackers.
I'm from Argentina.
And I'm from France. Radio.
Disney originally had the I'm from France line changed to We're backpackers. In Facey Talk, there was a brief scene where we see Aunt Trixie on the toilet. Disney originally had the zine zoomed in on Muffin. The censorship in Mini Bluey was interesting because while they cut out the shot where Bluey says Bingo looks crazy with the giant teeth, it actually makes for a bigger surprise when Bingo starts scaring the crap out of her parents. In Driving, the Agatha cat originally threatened to pee on the curtains.
You'll what?
Pee on your curtains.
Disney Plus changes it to scratching the curtains even though the show's already talked about peeing.
You'll what?
Scratch your curtains.
While we're on the topic of censoring stuff that hasn't been censored, Born Yesterday has Bandit get hit in the groin by the swing in the original version.
Ah, swing. This is...
For a while, that moment of impact was left out of the Disney Plus version. It's weird they'd censor it because Bandit already took a hit in the groin twice in Season 2. Why don't you censor those also? Plus, in Housework, Disney initially cut out not just an instant or a line, but an entire scene.
What? Ow! My groin! That's funny, is it?
A little.
Well, come on, you try it.
If they had a problem with Bandit saying, ow, my groin, all they had to do was alter the line. They didn't have to cut out the great scene between the parents. Thankfully, most of the Season 3 edits have been reverted as of late. The show also has a habit of making reference to pop culture, usually film and TV. One of the first to come to mind is when the kids play a game called Raiders, where Bandit rolls the yoga ball down the hall while the kids run from it. This is obviously a reference to the Boulder Chamber in Raiders of the Lost Ark. But that's not the only Indiana Jones reference in the show. In the Season 3 premiere, there's a scene where during a game, Bandit throws Bluey off the transport because she didn't have a ticket. He even repeats the same line Indy spoke in The Last Crusade.
No ticket.
No ticket.
I guess it helps that Bandit's an archaeologist. While we're on the topic of quoting exact lines, Featherwand has a moment where Bandit says, "You shall not pass!"
You shall not pass!
Now that's not something you'd hear in Lord of the Rings now, is it? In The Weekend, Bluey sells Bandit a statue for $400 dues.
$400 dues.
This is a reference to an episode of The Simpsons called Bart vs. Australia.
$900 dues.
In The Beach, the idea is that Bluey pretends to be a mermaid who's only got her legs for a day, definitely in reference to The Little Mermaid, a fairy tale best known for its Disney adaptation. Ooh, and when we see Chloe's house in Octopus, it's shown that the house number is 101. Since Chloe's a Dalmatian, we can only assume it's a reference to the Disney film 101 Dalmatians. It really helps that Disney is a distributor for the show outside of Australia. Sometimes there's references to video games. In Road Trip, Bluey describes one of the games that can be played on the tablet.
Well, there's one where you have to make Chunky Chimp jump over barrels.
Sounds a lot like the original Donkey Kong, doesn't it? In a flashback scene in Fairy Tale, we see Bandit and Stripe playing a beat-em-up game that resembles Double Dragon. There are a few episodes that use the floss dance, which I don't care for at all. I don't like seeing floss dancing in media, but I've gotten used to it by this point. But I was shocked to see that even a preschool show has gotten in on the trend. It first appeared in the episode Markets, which to me clearly seems a lot like it was inserted just for the trend. Especially at the end when everybody only ever does the floss when this guy plays a song after being given $5. Not just that, but they're flossing to country music. Could they really not be bothered to animate other dances for this scene? I don't know about you, but flossing's not the first thing to come to mind when I think of country music. But then in Grannies, the floss becomes a plot point when Bluey and Bingo debate whether or not grannies can floss.
Bingo, you have to play properly. You can only do what grannies do. And grannies don't floss. They do.
Now let's take a look at the pilot episodes. There were two of them. The first one was shown in 2016. As you notice right at the beginning, the animation style makes the characters look a lot more polygonal than in the final design. But it's not just a visual design. In the pilot, Bandit's distracted on his phone playing a parody of Fruit Ninja called Salad Dodger while he's pushing Bluey on the swing. Then he pushes her too high and she does a 360. That's freaking child endangerment! It's no wonder the show received a huge overhaul sometime after the pilot was shown. Also, Bandit's voice wasn't the same as it is now.
How about you go on this one?
No, not the chainy one.
Okay.
No food or drinks, no feet on seats, and that cat needs to be on your lap.
That's because at that time, he was being voiced by Joe Brum, the creator of Bluey. The second pilot was shown in 2017, and it was essentially an early version of The Weekend, which would become the 6th episode of Season 1. So this marks the earliest piece of Bluey content to feature the whole Healer family, complete with the same voice actors as now, Dave McCormack included.
Mom!
Where's my Bluey?
Well, go on. Give your mum a hug. What are you waiting
Dad.
for? Oh, sorry.
Mom!
Where's my Bluey?
Well, go on. Give your mum a hug. What are you waiting
Dad.
for? Oh, sorry.
Before working on Bluey, Dave McCormack was the lead singer for an Australian rock band called Custard, and their own song, Pinball Les, was sampled as the Bluey theme for both pilots before it became the whimsical upbeat tune we know today. It may interest you to know that the child characters were never credited, since they're children of the people who work at the studio, and it's for their safety that the names are not revealed. The animation we see in this pilot is much closer to the final designs, but it's not completely there. I mean, yeah, the house itself is obviously different from what we see in the show, and it originally showed Bluey and Bingo sleeping in 2 separate rooms instead of both in the same room like in the show. But the main noticeable difference in the character design that stands out to me is that Bandit's black markings only go under his right eye instead of under both eyes like in the final design. But let's talk about how the official episode is animated compared to the rest of the show. Because of its source, it still looks pretty stiff. In the pilot, there were moments when the characters spoke to each other without much of a pause in between lines. The official episode fixes this problem by putting a bit of waiting time, but that also results in characters being still when another character is talking. Just compare the two.
What's today, kiddo?
It's the weekend.
That's right. How many games should we play?
This
Whoa.
many.
Okay, that's doable.
I've got a letter for you.
Oh, thanks, Bluey. What's today, kiddo?
It's the weekend.
That's right. How many games should we play?
This many.
Whoa. Okay, that's doable.
I've got a letter for you.
Oh, thanks, Bluey.
This leaves off as a perfect transition to start the overview of the actual series. It's time to dive into each of the show's 3 seasons and see what they all have to offer. At the beginning, the show was simply all fun and games, providing simple narratives with simple messages, yet it still leaves an intoxicating feeling just from looking at it. Barbecue is probably one of the funnier episodes. Bingo just wants to relax in her relaxing chair, but is constantly required to gather more ingredients for their pretend salad.
My favourite colour pepper is red pepper. Red pepper? We need salad dressing! Woo!
But there's still the awe-inspiring episodes, like Fruit Bat, where Bluey wishes she could become a fruit bat so she could stay up all night. So she resolves by having a dream about being a fruit bat. Bob Bilby reminds me of a teddy bear in 2nd grade that we used to take turns spending the weekend with, participate in fun activities, and take pictures to keep in the album. There's even the smaller moments that can be emotional, like at Butterflies when Bluey apologizes to Bingo for running off with Judo, and while it takes some time before the two hug it out, that wait is what sets the emotion.
Jing, jing. No one to tickle his toes. Jing, jing. No one to blow his nose. Jing, jing.
The school teacher Calypso makes her first appearance in the appropriately titled Calypso. This is a great way to introduce the character. Kind-hearted, always looking for solutions when needed, and easily one of the best characters in any episode she's featured in. But definitely one of the stranger episodes is Blue Mountains. While Bandit's asleep, Bluey, Bingo, and Chili act out a story of 2 sisters and a fairy across the Blue Mountains by using their hands as puppets. I will admit, the close-up shots of Bandit look pretty cool. There's a lot of detail going into it, but the way the others use their puppet hands just looks wrong. I don't know, I guess it's the way they bend their thumb and pinky. No one can bend it like that, and we probably have a bit too much time spent with Chili's hand in Bandit's mouth. As the show went on, while still having simple narratives, they also try experiments. Bumpy and the Wise Old Wolfhound is a video Bluey and her family made when Bingo was sick in the hospital. It really does have the feel of a home movie, doesn't it?
Go up, Bluey! Oh, Muffin.
We can edit that bit out, right?
The adventure is told in the cinematic fashion, shrinking the aspect ratio from normal. Chicken Rat is interesting in that by Bluey and Bingo retracing their steps to find a lost toy, we see the events before unfold in reverse. But then we have episodes like Copycat, which deal with a more complex issue. In this instance, Bluey and Bandit take an injured Budgie to the vet, but they weren't able to save it.
The little budgie died.
What's funny is that Copycat didn't seem like it would take this route at first. It was just Bluey copying Bandit's every move up until all of a sudden this tiny bird is found lying near the sidewalk. And then it dies? That's the last thing I expected this show to display. But later there's an episode called Early Baby, where the title pretty much just lays it on the table for us. Indy plays a hospital game with Bluey and Honey where she delivers an early baby. Yeah, they went there.
Hello.
Speaking of Early Baby, there are a couple instances in the show where the very next day an episode would air acting as a direct sequel. It's like they're 2 halves of one whole story. Mums and Dads acts as the direct sequel to Early Baby. It makes sense. Consider the ending of Early Baby, where Indy and Rusty settle the conflict between their two games and decide to play Mums and Dads. And, well, the next episode is about disagreements on how to play Mums and Dads. Camping is my favorite episode from Season 1. While on a camping trip with her family, Bluey meets a French-Canadian black lad named Jean-Luc.
Tu veux jouer avec moi? Huh? Est-ce qu'on joue ensemble? I'm not really sure what you're talking about.
Despite their differences in dialect, they bond pretty much instantly and have a lot of fun until Jean-Luc's family has to leave, much to Bluey's dismay. But I absolutely adore the ending, which really makes the episode complete. We fast forward to see Bluey as an adult, and she meets Jean-Luc once more, now speaking English.
Hello, Bluey.
Well, just 2 words in English, but man, it's great seeing him again after all these years. The season finale, Veranda Santa, was of course a Christmas special. Bluey and Bingo play a game of Veranda Santa with their father and cousins, but after Socks bites Bluey's hand, out of anger, she intentionally leaves no gift for Socks.
Oh, I guess Veranda Santa doesn't give presents to kids who bite people.
Bluey!
She bit me!
The whole idea is that you should be kind-hearted all year round, and seeing Socks curled up outside is just sad. But it was all a good way to close off the first season, still delivering a simple message for a simple narrative. It's also worth it to see even the adults use the please face.
Please, will you accept our sorry?
Yes, I will.
Season 2 continues on this idea of adults using the please face, well, just for one episode. In its premiere episode, Dance Mode, Bingo's given 3 chances to use her dance mode, but she's hardly given much chance to speak for herself, made worse by the fact that she's only 4 years old. In one scene, Chili uses the please face to use one of Bingo's dance modes.
Pretty please.
Okay, yes.
Then later, Bandit offers $20 bucks to buy off Bingo's last dance mode, complete with a please face.
Pretty please!
Season 2 has definitely turned up the dial when it comes to Bluey content, though I should talk about a few dumb moments. Stumpfest is one of the first to come to mind. Never mind the kids protesting the removal of a stump they were using for a nail salon. The real kicker is how Chili joins in on the protest even though she wanted the stump gone in the first place.
You're the one who wanted it gone!
Oh, yeah, that's true. I want to put it in a fish pond.
Oh.
Library is where Muffin, thinking she's so special, gets to bend the rules because Stripe is just so lax. Seriously, listen to what he says.
Well, everyone has their own way of playing, Bluey.
Overstatement of the freaking century! At the end of Burger Shop, it seemed at first like Bandit finally realized he should be more strict on the rules from time to time, but after getting the kids out of the bath like he planned, he let them play a game of hedgehogs before going to bed.
Dad, can we play hedgehogs?
Oh, well... Okay,
Hooray!
just a quick game.
My least favorite episode of Season 2 is Mr. Monkey Jocks. In this one, Bluey and Bingo have to donate some toys, but decide they want to keep Mr. Monkey Jocks because he's supposedly so special. And the rest of the episode is the family just spiting each other all because of some stupid toy. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think any Bluey episode could really be categorized as bad episodes. They all have good intentions behind what they're trying to share to children. Stumpfest teaches us that adults can have fun just like kids can, even if it's in a different way. Library teaches us that neglecting the rules can bring others down. Burger Shop teaches us that we should try to balance lenience with strictness when raising our kids. And Mr. Monkey Jocks teaches us that once you have everything you could ever want, nothing is really special anymore. They all had their cute and funny moments, plus good-natured messages. It's just that the messages are not always shared in the best way. Enough about that though. What episodes stand out in this season? Well, Bingo is the only episode of the show to have a unique intro. It seemed normal at first until the game of musical statues is won by Bingo instead of Bluey. It seems like it would leave open the idea of a Bingo spin-off series. That would be a plan. It's already got a great episode centered on Bingo, so the possibility is there. Charades has a cute scene at the end where we hear Socks speak her first word.
Ballerina! Yes!
There's an episode called Typewriter where Bluey, Snickers, and Winton go to see Calypso in order to solve some problems they've got. It's a lot like The Wizard of Oz, with Dorothy meeting the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion, and they journey together to seek the wizard for help. Escape is funny because we got all the imagination that takes place, all animated in an art style resembling a young kid's drawings. Movies is a relatable episode. Bluey's anxious about her first trip to the theater, especially after having heard about a thunderstorm that takes place during the climax. The movie they're watching resembles a generic animated children's musical, which I guess fits just fine for a child's first feature film experience.
Oh, be yourself.
I need the toilet.
Oh, man.
But the episode also demonstrates how movies typically use the same tropes because it's also connected to real life. It's shown when the healers speak their lines in unison with characters in the movie.
But I want to go down there.
No, you have to stay here with me.
But I want to explore. I can't do it. I'm not ready.
Plus, the overall message of both the film and the episode itself is that you're you and you can do things your own way.
Learn to be yourself. Be yourself.
This season also introduces us to a bunch of characters. Daddy Drop-Off introduces Leela, a Maltese who soon becomes Bingo's best friend in kindergarten, and the episode even goes into fast forward like Camping did, except Bingo and Leela were always friends, lasting throughout the years. Leela would even be a recurring character during the show. Though one character that doesn't make much of a common appearance is Pom Pom, introduced in Seesaw. Really, she seems the most like she'd be a one-off character, because the whole idea of the episode was to show that size doesn't matter.
Pomeranians are small but hardy breed.
Double Babysitter is essentially a double character introduction. We get to see Bandit's brother Rad and Bluey's godmother Frisky. They were accidentally double booked for babysitting, but they also develop a romantic relationship. This is a great way to get two characters together. In Army, we're introduced to Jack Russell, and as you'd already guess, he's a Jack Russell Terrier. He's also the show's representative for those with ADD. At the beginning, he's unable to sit still or do as he's told, but that all changes when he plays Army with Rusty.
Can I be in the army?
Well, maybe. Can you do as you're told?
No, I'm not good at doing what.
Attention! On the left, quick, march! Hop, 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 halt! On the right, march! Hop, 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 halt! Salute! Yeah, you can play.
The way Jack tells the whole story kind of reminds me of Forrest Gump. It might be because of the overall narrative, but it could also relate to how Forrest served in the Army at one point. While we're on the topic, this is also where we learn that Rusty's father is in the Army.
How do you know so much about the army?
Because my dad's in the army.
Once again, we go into complex topics like ADD and having a parent serving the military. When I first watched Dad Baby, I thought it was one of the weirdest episodes of the show. It wasn't even on Disney Plus because of its subject matter, which is the stages of pregnancy. Yeah, it's all pretend, and it's not exactly going through the steps in detail, but it's still not the most comfortable episode. It especially gets weird during the delivery step. I can understand why Disney Plus doesn't want it there.
Oh, I do like to be beside the seaside.
Morning, Wendy!
Ah!
Flat Pack goes through evolutionary stages with Bluey and Bingo. They go from fish, to frogs, to lizards, to dinosaurs, to birds, to snow mice, to monkeys, to cave dogs, and they even portray their own parents as if they were deities who created the earth and its inhabitants.
Oh, look at them.
Ah, little tackers.
We made them.
All this time, the parents are trying to build a Flat Pack. As the girls go on, they even go through the stages of life. For Bingo, it was from childhood to adulthood. And for Bluey, it was from being a mother up until being an old woman, and eventually to death, as she walks toward the completed Flat Pack to join her creators, with Bandit topping the whole thing off with one of the most breathtaking lines ever spoken in an episode.
This is heaven.
There's an episode literally called The Show, and I don't want it to seem like I'm referring to the Bluey TV show as a whole, so I'll just refer to it as the episode when referring to, well, the episode. This episode hints to a miscarriage that took place before Bluey was born when Bingo's pregnant belly balloon pops during a show put on for Mother's Day and Bandit holds Chili's hand. This miscarriage theory was fueled further by the episode Sleepy Time. Yeah, this episode was more than just a dream that spoke on Bingo's separation anxieties, and also more than one of the best episodes in TV history. At the beginning of the dream, Bingo hatched from Earth, Bluey hatched from Venus, and Mercury remained unhatched. We already know just from watching the episode that the sun represents Chili. So if part of the miscarriage theory comes from this episode, Mercury is the closest to the sun, and it hasn't hatched. Meanwhile, Bluey hatched from Venus, and Bingo hatched from Earth. I bet Bingo would better understand this dream when she's older. But anyway, the theory was actually confirmed by creator Joe Brum in an interview. Fancy restaurant is another complex topic about the struggles of keeping a romantic relationship with your spouse when you've got kids to raise. I love the end when Bandit eats the meal the kids prepared with real food, just to make sure both the kids are not upset and Chili doesn't have to suffer through it. It demonstrates not just what a great father he is, but also a great husband. Then Rug Island is an episode that serves as a reminder that childhood never goes away because your kids will always find a way to give it back to you.
What did she give you?
Everything.
Baby Race is an episode that was specifically made for the parents that watch this show. You thought this was just a preschool show? No! What other kids show can you name where we see the parents struggling to keep up with the others and raising their kids, only to be reminded that they're doing just fine and they should let the steps develop at their own pace?
You're doing great.
What's funny about this episode is that even though Socks as a 1-year-old had been walking around on 4 legs like a normal dog, this episode shows the babies developing like normal humans. This season also has a story spanning 2 episodes. The first is Duck Cake, where Bandit tries to make a duck cake for Bingo's birthday. Let's just say it's not easy.
Oh, duck cake!
Oh, that's not good.
Seeing Bandit sitting against the counter after the head drops on the floor feeling like a failure is unlike anything you've seen in other shows for the same demographic. Of course, this is the episode where Bluey learns how important it is to do good for others. A helpful dog is a happy dog.
Thanks, Bluey.
Ooh.
The second is Handstand, where Bingo tries to do a handstand at her own birthday party, and at the same time, Nana wants to help set things up. But they both feel overlooked when everyone else is too busy with other things. I love how the camera is situated in the same place with so many things going on for about 2 minutes at a time. This season closes off with not 1, but 2 holiday specials. First is for Christmas. In the episode Christmas Swim, Bluey gets a new stuffed toy dog as a gift whom she tries to introduce to her relatives, but everyone's playing too rough with him.
Let go of Bartleby, Crocodile! It's his first heel of Christmas! Dad landed on him.
Oh, dearie me.
No, no, no!
Yeah, the Healer family is pretty wild, aren't they? But once they're given another chance to adjust to the new family member, everything works out just fine.
And here's to Bartleby.
Yeah, Bartleby!
This is also the first episode we see Socks walking on 2 legs, and we get to see Uncle Rad and Frisky again. The season finale is an Easter special. Bluey and Bingo are worried that the Easter Bunny might forget to bring them Easter eggs, but on Easter morning, they find a series of clues to lead them around the house to find the eggs. The clues are very creative and demonstrate how smart the kids are, and Bluey showed some serious bravery entering the bathroom while her dad's on the toilet just to find the next clue. It's also very sweet to see the kids complimenting each other just as it seemed all hope was lost.
Yes, you're smart. You figured out the castle clue all by yourself. Yeah, I did. It's me who is forgettable. You are not. You're brave. You went into Dad's stinky toilet. Yeah, I did.
What a great way to end the season.
Happy Easter, Bluey.
But before the Easter special aired, on December 22nd, 2020, a staged performance called Bluey's Big Play made its premiere in Australia. Yeah, when it comes to Bluey content, I may as well talk about Bluey's Big Play. I may make another video talking about the stage show, but to summarize, it's a 50-minute performance that uses human-sized puppets controlled by onstage puppeteers. It is pretty uncanny seeing them like this, but they looked quite good, and they even had the same voice actors on board to give their voice lines. This is also the first we hear of Chili having an older sister, referred to as Auntie Brandy. We'll get around to talk about that at some point.
Hello? Hey, Brandy. It's your little sister.
The Season 3 premiere is another special, this time for Father's Day. Well, Father's Day in Australia. The episode is called Perfect because Bluey wants to make the perfect Father's Day card. This episode is also a reminder that even though this show is a masterpiece, not every single episode is sure to be a win. Season 3 is just as good, if not better, than Season 2, but not without its hiccups. Obstacle Course is my least favorite episode overall. The episode is meant to spread a message about how cheating is never the right way to win, but they made Bandit into a stuck-up jackwagon, and I can't believe I just said that about my favorite character in the show.
Well done, Bluey. You won.
As if his attitude wasn't enough, when Bluey was about to beat Bandit for real, he pulls her back to give himself a boost to the finish line. Chili's line that follows perfectly sums up how I felt when that happened.
What was that?
It wasn't just the fact that he cheated, it was the fact that he tried to deny having cheated. It's explained in that scene that Bandit just couldn't handle losing to a child, but come on, they didn't have to go this route. If he's still gonna cheat, at least make him more likable. But the rest of the season still has brilliant episodes. Fairy Tale is an episode told in the flashback. We see Bandit as a kid growing up in the 80s who used to tease Stripe, and after having suffered a jinx, soon learns his lesson. Supposedly, this is when Bandit first met Chili, but Chili doesn't remember that happening. I mean, come on, Bandit didn't even have a finger up his nose.
Oh look, it's just like when we first met.
Hi, bud, smell this.
What?
Spot on.
It's also the episode we learn that Bandit is actually the middle child of 3 brothers. You'd think at first that Rad would be the youngest, considering his personality, not to mention his surfer design. When you watch musical statues, you soon start to catch on that the family's playing a game of musical statues in the opening every time. You can also get the hint if you've watched Bluey's Big Play. Curry Quest is a great way to explain to kids the steps of a hero's quest, while Bandit and Bingo take on their own quest to the Border Collie's home for a curry swap. Pass the Parcel was a lot of fun, where Lucky's dad adjusts the game to how he played it when he was younger. People debate which rules work better, but I think Pat's rules allow for much more suspense. Explorers feature some impressive animation. It's one of the few episodes to use CGI, and it looks magnificent. Dragon is a creative episode that uses multiple animation styles from the Healer family, but it also has a flashback where we see Chili's mum.
But it's pretty good for a 7-year-old.
Really?
Yep. Keep practicing. You'll get better. Just don't ever give up, Chili.
Unicorse is another great episode. Bandit controls the loud, obnoxious unicorn hand puppet that keeps interrupting a bedtime story Chili's reading to Bluey.
And wash it again. You will live to regret that. Catch you on the flip side, Willie!
Wait, no!
It's also the first time a character expresses an opinion while reading the title card.
This episode of Bluey, unfortunately, is called Unicorse.
Yeah, I'm saying it's the opinion of the character and doesn't reflect the opinion of Melanie Zanetti herself. Unicorse appears again in the episode Puppets, where he's trying to win Chili's affections by cleaning himself up, only to completely turn her off when he eats a tick.
Oh my gosh!
Wait, no! Come back!
Come to think of it, this whole deal about the puppet trying to win the affections of a living person reminds me of Triloquist in the Ace Attorney episode Turnabout Big Top.
Objection!
Oh, and speaking of the court, there's an episode called Family Meeting where Bluey accuses Bandit of blowing wind in her face, and the family holds a mock trial to determine his innocence with Chili as the judge. Every time they refer to a fart, they say Fluffy or Fluff.
Bingo, on the morning of this morning, did you see Dad Fluffy in my face? You missed the bit where you fluffied. That sound was the Fluffy.
Okay, I fluffied.
It's a funny episode, but they did mess up on one detail regarding legal terms.
I sentence you to 1 hour playing horsey ride with the defendant and her sister.
Hey!
Chili referred to Bluey as the defendant, even though Bandit was the one on trial, having been accused of fluffing in Bluey's face. The one who's pressing the charges, in this case Bluey, is meant to be labeled as the plaintiff. This is also the episode where we learned Bluey's middle name.
Bluey Christine Healer.
Another middle name would be revealed in the next episode, Facey Talk.
Muffin Cupcake Healer.
While we're still on the topic of disgusting activities, Smoochy Kiss is a gold mine. Chili complains about some of Bandit's habits, so the kids try to keep the two separate, but learn about some of the disgusting things their father does.
Looks like gravy.
Ew!
I peed on my foot. Hang on, one more.
Bluey, what is it? Dad hit a Fluffy!
This wasn't even the first time Bandit farted. I've already talked about Family Meeting, but he's done this a few times in Season 1.
Bandit, really?
One time, he even tried to blame it on Bluey.
Oh, Bluey. How could you?
It wasn't me. It was you.
Rain is one of the more experimental episodes, where most of the story is told with the visuals instead of using dialogue. It reminds me of the old silent films from the early 20th century. It's my favorite episode from the 3rd season. Tina is a funny episode about why it's so important to do as you're told, but I think a better demonstration of this message comes from Show and Tell, because while it does have a similar story, it also gives a more practical example of why following instructions is important instead of this whole imaginary friend deal. Now tell me, which method is going to help your kids remember the message better? Seeing the results physically unfold, or just talking to them about what's going on with their imaginary friend?
When was the last time she had a bath?
Tina's never had a bath. And we're not having a bath either. Oh, shoot.
They even refer back to the Tina episode complete with the kids not remembering anything from that experience.
Your invisible friend Tina beat me up. And we all learned that when I tell you to do something, I'm trying to help you.
I didn't learn that. Me neither.
Well, there you go.
That's disappointing.
I can go on and on, like how Dirt features ball judo, Pavlova has Bandit pretend to be a French chef, and Stories has American songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda play a role. But let's go over the usual episodes that deal with adult topics. I've talked about how Perfect had a censored line where Bandit originally talked about wanting a vasectomy, which Chili disagrees with. But the very next episode, called Bedroom, has an opening scene that supposedly also acts as a hint to the miscarriage. This time, it points to the possibility of a miscarriage taking place after Bingo was born. In one of the early promo images, we could see Chili pregnant, hinting that they may have had plans to have a 3rd child at one point in the series, but nowhere in the actual show do we ever see a pregnant Chili in the same scene as Bluey and Bingo, or at all really. So, did the miscarriage happen before Bluey, or after Bingo? I like to imagine it was 2 separate miscarriages for both time frames. Chess is where Bandit tries to teach Bluey how to play chess, but it's just not the right time. I can relate to this because chess really is a hard game to learn, and even harder to master. Maybe a few more years would be okay?
So the pawns can move 1 square forward, well, sometimes 2 squares, but only on the first turn. And they take diagonally, see?
It's not exactly a complex topic since the message is how you should train your children's hearts before their brains, but like I said, chess is a complex game. Turtle Boy has a character named Dougie that represents the hearing impaired. Dougie and her mum communicate with each other using Australian Sign Language, or Auslan.
Leave him there, honey. His owner might come back for him.
I don't really know anything about sign language in any form, but it seems like they've done a good job with this. Onesies is one of the more emotional episodes. Auntie Brandy was already referred to by name in Bluey's Big Play, but this episode of the show was the first time she makes a physical appearance, having not seen her sister Chili in 4 years. The episode implies that Brandy is infertile, unable to have children.
Why can't she just have the things she wants?
Because it's not meant to be.
Space is about how Mackenzie wants to recreate an experience he had where he felt abandoned.
My mum left me behind.
She didn't. You just got mixed up in the slide. She's just over there.
Mackenzie!
Hey, Mum.
See? There she is.
Then in Stickbird, we see that Bandit's upset about something, but we don't know what he's been upset about. But it's a great one for me because it shows how your silly little kids can throw away their negative feelings and inspire you to do the same. I'm telling you, these kids are just as good of a role model as the parents.
Here I come!
After a 9-month hiatus following The Decider, there were some changes to the schedule. How it used to work was that the episodes were released on a daily basis. Now, starting with the episode Cubby, aired on April 9th, 2023, the episodes aired on a weekly basis, with a new episode every Sunday in Australia. The latest episode right now is Cricket, where the parents are trying to bowl Rusty out in a game of cricket, which proves to be quite difficult, given he loves to play cricket. It's actually one of the best episodes of the show overall. Of course, Bluey's not quite done yet. There's still a few more episodes left of Season 3 to release. Right now I see that 3 more are on the way, and one of them will have a runtime of 28 minutes, which is unusual given that the average Bluey episode runs for 7 minutes. I wonder what the 28-minute episode will have to offer. I'm sure it'll be something special, especially considering they're putting production on the series on hold for a little bit. But not to worry, it's only a hiatus. No immediate plans for Season 4, but the odds of that happening, without a doubt, are 99.9%. People love this show. There's no reason to cancel it now when it's at the peak of its popularity. There's so many other things I could talk about, like all the recurring appearances of Long Dog, which has popped into almost every episode, and all the merchandise and books that were made, plus the Bluey bonus bits that have been released on YouTube. Bluey was even featured as a balloon at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade last year, and there's an upcoming video game based on the show. But my major focus in this video is on the show itself and how it impacted me as an adult. This show will always live on with me as one of the greatest TV shows of all time, and given everything I've watched, that's saying a lot. It's the type of show that'll stick with you forever, for real life.